Detox. That's a big buzzword in today's health world. And you've probably heard in a lot of different ways that people will detox. Maybe you've heard about or done a juice cleanse or fasting, or maybe you've heard about some supplements that help with detoxification. Today, I want to break down what detoxification actually is and what it isn't, and how we can support our body's innate ability to remove toxins from our body. Let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Pierce Whitley, your integrative health practitioner, bringing you weekly inspiration to help you pull up your health issues by the root. As we cultivate balance in our bodies, our soil will become inhospitable to symptoms. Welcome to Vitally Balanced. The first thing we need to know about detoxification is that your liver is the major detoxification organ of your body. Every couple minutes, your liver filters all of the blood in your body, and that is where the major detoxification reactions happen. So we're going to be talking about the 3 phases of detoxification that your body goes through, and 2 of those phases happen in your liver. So we're going to talk about those, and then we're going to talk about phase 3 detoxification, which is a little bit of a different thing. And that's more about how we remove the toxins from our body. And I'm going to post a graphic up here so that y'all can see as we go through the different phases, what they actually use, which nutrients they use, and kind of what we're doing in each phase. So in phase 1 of liver detoxification, that's when the toxins that come into your liver are fat soluble. The toxins are mostly soluble with fat. Have any of you ever shaken up protein powder, and that protein powder actually didn't really dissolve well in water? And so you try to drink it and there's all these clumps in there and it doesn't taste very good. That's because that protein powder wasn't very water soluble. It didn't dissolve well in water. And so that's kind of how your toxins are when they first come into your liver, or that's how a lot of them are. And so first of all, we have to make those toxins water soluble, because that's how we eliminate a lot of things from our bodies. We need to take the toxins from these hard to dispose of forms, and we need to make them more easily disposable. And that's by using something called your cytochrome P450 pathway. And that's a phrase that people will use a lot because it is phase 1 of your liver detoxification. And so the nutrients that we need to use in that, I'll put it up on the screen right now. We need our B vitamins in order to detoxify using phase 1. We need certain amino acids, and then we have other compounds like flavonoids and phospholipids, and then glutathione. And glutathione is like the master antioxidant in our body, and we'll talk about what antioxidants are in just a little bit and why they're so necessary in this detoxification process. So that's phase 1. We're taking these toxins and we're changing them a little bit to be more water soluble. But after phase 1, they're still only semi-water soluble, and they're what we call intermediary metabolites. And these intermediary metabolites are actually not very friendly to our body. They will cause oxidative damage to the cells around them. And so that's why in the graphic that we're going to be using, you see that little box in the bottom left-hand corner. It says protective nutrients, and that's a lot of your antioxidants. See vitamin C in there, vitamin E. Selenium and copper are needed to activate certain antioxidant enzymes. All these nutrients that are protective against these free radical compounds that will damage the cells around it. And then these intermediary metabolites go into phase 2 of liver detoxification. So phase 1 made them water soluble. The protective nutrients kept them stable and not damaging our body. And phase 2 is going to make these intermediary metabolites all the way water soluble. And phase 2 has several different pathways it works through, and they're all conjugation pathways. So we've got like amino acid conjugation, glutathione conjugation, glucuronidation. There are lots of different conjugation pathways. I believe there are 7, and they each use different compounds, as you see listed under that box: glycine, taurine, glutamine, N-acetylcysteine. A lot of these are different amino acids and glutathione precursors, but they use these nutrients to finish the transformation of these intermediary metabolites and make them all the way water soluble. And so that's pretty much the extent of what our liver does. It takes the fat soluble toxins, turns them water soluble, and now we get down to phase 3. So up to this point, what can we do to support liver detoxification? There are a couple things. First, you can just try to avoid all the toxins you can in general, because our liver isn't going to be able to a lot of times keep up with all of them. And they're either going to start causing damage to our bodies, or our body's just going to need to store them in fat to store them, just to keep them away from everything else in our body. And that's not good either. So what can we do to support our liver? We can avoid toxins, and then we can also support it with the nutrients it needs. So you can see there's a broad spectrum of them. I see vitamin A, the B vitamin family, vitamin C, E, selenium, copper, zinc, and then a lot of these plant compounds like flavonoids that we can support our liver with. And then there are some very specific compounds like selimarin that we can take things like milk thistle supplements for. But we just essentially can support our liver by eating a healthy diet, a broad spectrum of good plant foods and nutrient rich animal foods as well. And then there are also certain supplements you can take. One of my favorite detoxification protocols has by Equilife has two specific supplements, and one of them is more of an herbal supplement, and one of them is a functional medicine supplement. And the functional medicine supplement incorporates a lot of these nutrients that we're talking about here that support our liver's ability to detoxify these toxins. And then we come to phase 3. And again, if you're watching on YouTube and you're looking at the infographic here, it's more of the transportation and drainage. That's how we actually get these water-soluble toxins out of our bodies. And so there are so many different ways we can actually do that. We can first, the liver can put those toxins into the bile. We drop the bile into our colon and our poop. And then there are other toxins that are well excreted in our urine. We also secrete toxins out of our pores when we sweat. So that's one reason why it's important to be exercising, and also why saunas are so beneficial, because it supports that drainage pathway. So there are a lot of different pathways where we can excrete the toxins that we're conjugating in our liver detoxification pathways. So how can we support this phase? Well, the infographic says you can do things like coffee enemas, but really some of the most important things to be focusing on first are that we're eating enough fiber, that we're having regular, healthy bowel movements. We're not constipated. We don't want to be having diarrhea all the time, but we don't want to be constipated either. We want to be having regular daily bowel movements. That's why it references some, intestinal moving herbs to kind of help move that process along. But ideally, we shouldn't have to be taking supplements to stay regular. But that's another podcast, of course. I feel like I say that like 2 or 3 times a podcast. Oh, we can talk about this, but that's another podcast. But it's really the truth, and I'm really excited to be able to talk about these things. But there's so much that I don't know. I can't just fit it all into one podcast. But so yeah, we need to be supporting our phase 3 drainage pathways by keeping ourselves regular, by drinking enough water. Hydration is super important to keep our urine flowing, and also for sweating. We need to be doing things that allow us to sweat. Go outside, take a run, lift some weights, go to the sauna. So many different ways to be able to support that detoxification pathway. One more thing just to mention here is things like antiperspirant deodorants. I know a lot of people struggle with body odor, and it's been a struggle to find a non-antiperspirant deodorant for me as well that doesn't contain things like aluminum to stop our armpits from sweating. But that is one thing. If we're stopping ourselves from sweating, then we're preventing detoxification essentially. And our armpit is one of the major spots in our body where we have a lot of lymph nodes. And lymph is essentially like the cellular waste drainage system. It's like the trash chute for our cells. And so the lymph nodes are where a lot of essentially the hubs of the lymph vessels are. That's like the I don't know what you call them, the garbage centers, where all the trash trucks come in and out from. And if we're blocking areas right around those lymph nodes, that's going to not be good for detoxification either. But most important things to focus on: staying regular with fiber, hydration, and sweating, big things. And that's essentially how we detoxify. So now when we look at a lot of our different detox trends and things like that, we can think, well, which phase is this supporting, or is it supporting any phase? A lot of times people will talk about doing juice cleanses, and that's great. Specifically, Well, it might give us some nutrients for phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification, but majorly, juice cleanses are going to be supporting phase 3 detoxification. We want to get all of that out of the intestines, and we're just going to flush the intestines. We're hydrating a lot, so we're going to be able to flush the urine. We're giving our body lots of liquid to be able to sweat out. It's mostly phase 3. Then there are things like functional medicine liver detoxes, like I mentioned earlier from one of my favorite supplement companies, Equilife. They use fasting combined with nutrients that will support phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification, and also combined with herbs that will support liver detox. And then after your days of semi-fasting are over, then you do a lot cleaner of a diet, one that is going to also assist you in detoxification. But as important as detoxification is, and as much as we need to be supporting our detoxification, it's the most important thing is to avoid toxins in the first place. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But toxins are everywhere around us. Toxins are in the air, they're in the water, they are in and on the foods that we eat. And some could even say they're even in social media, but that's a whole different type of toxicity. But they're everywhere. And so we can't just avoid everything. That would require total seclusion in the wilderness, some random remote place on Earth, and we'd probably still come into contact with a lot of the toxins humanity is perpetuating throughout the environment anyway. So we do need to be supporting our liver's detoxification. We do need to be supporting our excretion. And if we're doing all these things, we're going to reduce the total load on our body of toxins, and that's going to be incredible for us. Our hormone problems a lot of times will begin to resolve because these toxins can disrupt our hormones. We're going to be able to think more clearly. We're going to be able to have more energy because our body's and normal systems are not going to be as disrupted. And it's just going to improve all aspects of our health. And some people's unique health problems are even caused completely just by toxicity. And so once we get rid of that toxicity, a lot of times many health problems will just be resolved just through that. So takeaways from this podcast, we need to make it practical and usable. I'm going to do an entirely different podcast on these action items. But some things that we can do are reduce the toxins in our food, reduce the toxins in our water, reduce the toxins in our personal care products, and then support our detoxification methods with a nutrient-rich diet, and also with supporting our excretion pathways. And a very useful resource if you start with something is look up Environmental Working Group. And that website, the Environmental Working Group, is I believe a nonprofit that has so many different resources, and very good ones at that. Well studied, well done research that helps you understand which are the toxic things in your life that you can be removing. They have a portion of their site called Skin Deep that you can research your personal care products on and see which toxins they have in them. They have a water portion of their site, which you can look up what your tap water has in your area, which heavy metals, which toxins it has in it. And they have a food list called the Dirty Dozen that tells you the worst offenders as far as pesticides and herbicides go. And so you can look to buy those foods on the Dirty Dozen organic. And again, I plan to do an entirely separate podcast about how we can remove the toxins out of our personal care products and our food and our water. But I just wanted to focus on the foundations today of what is detoxification and how can we support it. If you found this podcast helpful, make sure to share it with friends and family that you know also need this. And to be honest, who doesn't need this information today? And again, make sure that you know when the new podcasts are released. Make sure to follow and subscribe so that you're able to see those notifications. And as always, I'll see y'all next Thursday.